Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're heading back to ancient Greece
Oh, cool.
to explore how philosophy kind of emerged from the world of myths.
Okay.
And to do that, we're going to be focusing on a guy named Heraclitus.
Interesting.
Fascinating, influential figure.
Yeah.
So get ready for like a crash course on the shift from mythos to logos.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's a lot more exciting than it sounds.
I'll take your word for it.
We're cracking open those ancient scrolls,
Uh-huh.
deciphering riddles, unearthing the wisdom of this philosopher who was called Heraclitus the Dark back in the day.
Heraclitus the Dark. That's a pretty intense nickname.
Right. It grabs you.
Well, it's funny because we often think of myth and philosophy as like these totally separate things.
Yeah.
But early philosophy, it's really got deep roots in mythical thinking.
Exactly. Like back then, myths weren't just stories. They were how people made sense of the world, the universe, everything.
Right.
What's your take on that?
Well, early humans didn't have like scientific methods or anything like we rely on today.
Right?
So instead of studying nature objectively, they interacted with it very personally. They personified nature,
Oh, wow.
viewing it as a vow, a living force with a spirit and a will.
Yeah.
Imagine experiencing the rivers or trees as like entities you could actually have a relationship with.
So different from our modern view.
Completely.
It's like an it. Exactly.
Something we analyze, categorize, try to control
Right.
makes you wonder if we've lost something in that shift.
It really does.
Do you think that by understanding the world this way, do you think it changes the types of questions they would ask?
Absolutely. It would change everything.
Yeah.
Their questions wouldn't be about like how to control nature, but how to like live in harmony with it.
Right.
And, myths provided meaning in order to their lives.
Right.
But they didn't always offer like satisfying explanations
Right.
for the complexities of the universe.
Yeah.
And that's where philosophers like Heraclitus come in. Okay, so he's bridging this gap between the mythical and the philosophical.
He is.
But Heraclitus wasn't exactly known for being straightforward.
No, he wasn't.
He was famous for his cryptic sayings,
Yeah.
riddles wrapped in enigmas.
Right.
They even called him Heraclitus the Dark back then.
Heraclitus the Dark.
What do you think about his mysterious style?
Well,
Was it deliberate, or was he just a naturally complex thinker?
there's a lot of debate about whether his obscurity was intentional.
Yeah.
Some believe he was hiding truth from the masses,
Okay.
while others argue that he was challenging them to think more deeply.
Interesting.
I mean, think about it. He used paradox and metaphor a lot, similar to like pronouncements from the Delphic oracle.
Oh, wow. Like those pronouncements from the oracle that could be interpreted in many ways.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's possible that Heraclitus saw ambiguity as a way to spark deeper reflection and encourage people to like grapple with complex ideas. He wouldn't give you a straightforward answer. He'd give you a puzzle to solve.
Yeah, it definitely makes you work for it. This makes me think about how this approach might be relevant today.
Oh, yeah.
In a world that is just overflowing with information.
Right.
Maybe we need a little more of Heraclitus's ambiguity to make us pause and really think things through.
I think so. What do you think?
I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
In our age of instant answers and everything, we rarely take the time to ponder and wrestle with complex ideas.
Yeah.
Heraclitus's approach, it forces us to slow down and engage with the material on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings us to his central idea,
Okay.
the logos, a concept many people struggle to grasp even today.
Okay, let's dive into this logos.
Right.
It sounds like it's pretty central to understanding Heraclitus.
It is. It is. Think of the logos as like a universal principle governing all things.
Okay.
It's the underlying order of the cosmos, but it's not just like a material concept.
It also encompasses a divine intelligence.
Right.
It's both the laws of nature and a kind of cosmic consciousness.
So the logos is everywhere, running through everything.
It is.
But Heraclitus believed that most people were totally unaware of it.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
He believed that most people lived in a state of like sleepwalking ignorance,
Okay.
completely oblivious to the logos that permeated their very existence.
Wow.
He urged his listeners to follow the common,
Okay.
which means to abandon our limited private perspectives and align ourselves with this universal truth.
It seems like he's suggesting that there's a deeper reality beneath the surface of things.
Right.
And that we need to wake up and see it.
Exactly.
He's not just talking about understanding the world intellectually.
No.
It's about living in harmony with a deeper order.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is where one of his most famous analogies comes in.
Okay.
He said, You cannot step into the same river twice.
It's about change, isn't it?
It is.
Everything is in constant flux, flowing and transforming.
Yes.
It's interesting to think about how this concept of constant change applies to our own lives.
Absolutely.
Are we the same person we were yesterday? A year ago?
Right. And this idea connects to his notion of the unity of opposites.
Okay.
Things that seem completely contradictory, like day and night or life and death, are actually interconnected. They define each other.
Right.
On an individual level, change can feel chaotic, but Heraclitus saw change on a cosmic scale as orderly and cyclical,
Right.
governed by the logos.
So even though everything is changing, there's an underlying order to it all.
Exactly.
It's like the seasons changing. Even though winter can be harsh, we know that spring will always follow.
Exactly.
But to understand that, we need to look beyond the individual changes to see the bigger picture.
Exactly. And to illustrate this idea even further, Heraclitus used the metaphor of fire to represent the logos.
Interesting.
He described the world as an ever-living fire that kindles and extinguishes in measures.
So what's the significance of fire here?
Yeah.
Is he talking about literal fire, or is there a deeper meaning?
It's not about a physical fire.
Okay.
Think of it more as a symbol of energy, transformation, and interconnectedness.
Okay.
Everything is constantly changing, burning, being consumed, and reborn. It's a really powerful visual representation of that cyclical change we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Everything fuels the fire, and the fire fuels everything else.
It's like this continuous cycle of creation and destruction,
Exactly.
all orchestrated by the logos.
Right.
But what about us humans?
Good question.
How do we fit into this cosmic dance of fire and change?
Right.
How did Heraclitus view the human condition within this framework?
That's where things get even more interesting. You mentioned wanting to understand more about what Heraclitus meant by living in harmony with the logos.
Right, yeah.
That's a great place to pick up because it connects to one of his most thought-provoking ideas.
Okay.
Justice is strife.
It does sound paradoxical.
Right.
We tend to think of justice as something peaceful and harmonious.
Yeah.
The opposite of strife.
Right.
So how does Heraclitus connect these two seemingly opposing ideas?
It goes back to that concept of the unity of opposites we were discussing earlier.
Right.
He believed that opposing forces are necessary for balance.
Okay.
Light and dark, hot and cold, creation and destruction. For Heraclitus, even war and peace were interconnected.
Wow.
And vital for maintaining equilibrium.
It's like a cosmic tug of war.
It is.
Keeps everything in check.
Yeah.
But how does this relate to human society?
Right.
Are we supposed to be constantly at war to achieve justice?
Not exactly. Heraclitus isn't advocating for constant warfare.
Okay.
He's pointing to a deeper principle at play in the universe. He believed that conflict, when channeled productively, can be a source of justice and order.
Oh.
Think of like a healthy debate,
Right.
different perspectives clash, but ultimately lead to a more balanced and nuanced understanding.
So it's not about eliminating conflict altogether.
Yeah.
It's about understanding its role in a larger order.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this? How can we apply this idea of productive conflict to our own lives?
That's a great question to consider.
Yeah.
Perhaps it means embracing those moments of friction and disagreement,
Okay.
recognizing their potential to lead to growth and understanding.
Right.
Instead of shying away from conflict, we might find ways to engage with it constructively, seeking common ground and shared goals.
Okay, so we've established that tension and conflict are part of the grand scheme of things.
They are.
But where does the human soul fit into all of this?
Right.
How did Heraclitus view our inner world within this framework of constant change and cosmic order?
That's a question Heraclitus explored deeply.
Yeah.
He saw the soul as something incredibly vast and profound. He even suggested that one would never discover the limits of soul should one traverse every road, so deep a measure does it possess.
That's such a powerful image. It's as if he's saying the soul is like an endless universe,
Right.
waiting to be explored.
Yeah.
Do you think he believed that exploring our inner world is somehow connected to understanding the logos?
Absolutely he did.
Okay.
Remember, he saw the logos as both material and spiritual.
Right.
He seemed to be suggesting that there's a connection between the inner world of the soul and the outer world governed by the logos.
It's like looking into a mirror
Yes.
and seeing a reflection of the cosmos itself.
Exactly.
Such a beautiful idea.
It is.
But how do we even begin to explore something as vast and mysterious as the soul?
Right.
Where do we even start?
That's where things get tricky.
Okay.
Heraclitus was skeptical about the power of the senses to truly grasp the logos.
Okay.
He famously said, "Poor witnesses for people are eyes and ears if they possess uncomprehending souls."
So he's saying that relying solely on our senses can be deceptive.
It can.
We need something more than just our physical perceptions to truly understand the world and ourselves. It makes you wonder,
Yeah.
what did he believe was necessary to grasp the logos?
Well, he believed that true understanding required more than just sensory input.
Okay.
He emphasized the importance of insight, intuition, a kind of awakening of the soul. He seemed to be calling for a higher level of consciousness, a way of seeing the world that goes beyond our limited private perspectives.
So it's not just about what we see and hear, but about what we grasp on a deeper intuitive level.
Exactly.
That makes sense. We can look at the same thing and see something completely different,
Right.
depending on our internal state, our own understanding.
Yeah.
This reminds me of something he said about private intelligence.
Oh, right.
Can you explain that concept and how it relates to understanding the logos?
Absolutely. Heraclitus believed most people lived in a state of sleepwalking ignorance,
Right.
clinging to their private intelligence.
Okay.
This means being trapped in our own little bubbles of understanding, our individual interpretations of reality. He contrasted this with one wisdom, the wisdom of the logos that governs all things.
So it's not enough to just accumulate knowledge.
Yeah.
We need to move beyond our own limited perspective.
I do.
And connect with something larger than ourselves.
Yes.
But it's easier said than done.
It is.
How do we break free from our private intelligence
Yeah.
and tap into that universal wisdom?
Heraclitus believed the key lay in aligning ourselves with the logos.
Okay.
But he didn't provide like a step-by-step guide.
Right.
Instead, he left us with clues scattered throughout his work. One of those clues is his emphasis on contemplation and introspection.
Okay.
He urged his listeners to look within to understand the depths of their own souls.
So it's about turning inward,
Yes.
examining our own thoughts and beliefs,
Right.
and questioning our assumptions about the world.
Exactly.
But if the logo's everywhere and governs everything,
Right.
why is it so hard to grasp?
Yeah.
Why does nature, as Heraclitus said, love to hide?
That's a fascinating question to ponder.
It is, yeah.
Maybe it's because we're so caught up in our own private worlds,
Okay.
our limited perspectives, that we fail to see the bigger picture.
Right.
Perhaps it's like trying to see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
We need to step back, widen our lens, and look for the connections and patterns that underlie the seemingly chaotic nature of reality.
It's like we need to develop a new way of seeing,
We do.
a way of perceiving the interconnectedness of all things.
Yes.
But wouldn't that require a fundamental shift in our understanding of the world and our place in it?
Precisely. And perhaps that's the true challenge Heraclitus leaves us with, to continue our own deep dives into the mysteries of existence,
Yeah.
to seek that elusive wisdom that connects us all.
It's a journey worth taking,
It is.
even if it's full of riddles and paradoxes.
Yeah.
There's so much to unpack in his ideas about the soul and the limits of knowledge.
Yeah.
But we also need to explore how he applied these concepts to the realm of politics and ethics.
We do.
I'm eager to dive into that aspect of his thought.
Rare.
What do you think? Are you ready to tackle those big questions?
Let's do it.
It's amazing to think that we're still, wrestling with these ideas thousands of years after Heraclitus first pondered them.
I know, it's really incredible.
It speaks to the enduring power of his philosophy.
It does.
But I'm especially intrigued by how he applied his ideas to human society.
Right.
So let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and delve into Heraclitus's views on politics and ethics.
All right, let's do it.
I mean, he wasn't just like an armchair philosopher contemplating abstract ideas.
Not at all.
He's actually trying to figure out how to create a just and harmonious society based on these principles.
He was.
I'm curious to hear what he had to say about that. Where do we even begin?
Well, one of his most famous pronouncements in this area is, "The people should fight for the law as for the city wall."
Okay.
He saw the rule of law as essential for maintaining order and preventing chaos in society.
That's such a powerful image.
It is.
The law is like a protective barrier,
Yeah.
shielding us from the forces of disorder. It
Exactly.
makes you realize how important a stable legal system is for a functioning society.
It does.
But it also seems to contradict his earlier statement about justice is strife.
That's interesting.
How do you reconcile those two seemingly opposing ideas?
Well, remember, Heraclitus saw conflict as like a fundamental part of the universe.
Right.
You know, it's this interplay of opposing forces that keeps everything in balance. And he believed this principle applied to not just the cosmos, but to human society as well.
So it's not about eliminating conflict.
Yeah.
It's about channeling it productively.
Exactly. Think about like the legal system itself.
Right.
It's designed to manage conflict, to provide a framework for resolving disputes, and ensuring fairness.
So Heraclitus is suggesting that some degree of tension and debate is actually necessary for a just and harmonious society.
It seems like it.
It challenges this notion that conflict is always bad.
It does.
Maybe it's more about how we handle it. That determines whether it leads to chaos or a just outcome.
I think that's right.
But I keep thinking about his elitist views.
Yeah.
Didn't he believe only a select few were capable of true understanding?
He did.
How does that fit into his vision of a just society?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
It's an important point. Heraclitus definitely had this aristocratic view of leadership.
Okay.
You know, he didn't really have faith in the wisdom of the masses. He believed that only a few individuals possessed the insight and the wisdom to guide society.
So his ideal society wasn't exactly a democracy.
No, it wasn't.
It seems like he favored a system where the wisest and most insightful individuals were in charge.
Great.
Which raises a big question.
Yeah.
How do we even identify those individuals?
That's a tough one.
What qualities should we look for in our leaders?
That's a question people have been debating for centuries.
Right.
Heraclitus doesn't provide a simple answer, but we can get some insights from his writing. He repeatedly emphasized this importance of aligning oneself with the logos, you know, this universal principle governing all things.
Right.
So a wise leader, in his view, would be someone who's truly awakened to the logos, someone who understands the interconnectedness of all things.
So a wise leader would be able to see beyond their own limited perspective.
Right.
Make decisions that benefit everyone.
Yes.
Not just a select few.
Exactly.
They need to be able to navigate this complexity of a world that's in constant flux.
Exactly. It all comes back to his famous quote,
Yeah.
you know, you cannot step into the same river twice.
Right.
This isn't just like a poetic observation about nature.
Yeah.
It's a profound statement about reality itself.
Yeah.
Everything's in motion. Nothing stays the same.
And that applies to human society as well.
It does.
Leaders need to understand that the world they're governing isn't static.
Right.
It's a dynamic process.
Yes.
And they have to be able to adapt.
They do.
Respond to that ever-changing flow of events.
Absolutely. And maybe that's the most enduring legacy of Heraclitus. He challenges us to embrace change.
Yeah.
To seek wisdom in the chaos, to align ourselves with this universal principle that governs all things.
Heraclitus definitely gave us a lot to think about.
He did.
His philosophy is so insightful and relevant.
Yes.
Even today, he reminds us that the world is complex.
Right.
And that true wisdom lies in understanding our place in this larger order.
And who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe by pondering these ideas, by going deep into our own souls, we might just catch a glimpse of that wisdom he was trying to share.
Well, that's our deep dive into the world of Heraclitus.
I think that's it.
Thank you for joining us on this fascinating journey.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep exploring the mysteries of existence.